Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into this really cool document from Happywise that flips a popular idea on its head. You know the concept of presence? Well, it turns out it's not just some wellness buzzword. It's actually a powerful, measurable business strategy that can literally transform an entire company from the inside out.
So let's just jump right in with a question for you. Think about the last meeting you were in. Seriously, what was the energy you brought into that room? Were you focused? Kind of stressed? Collaborative? The thing is, that energy you bring, what this document calls your personal presence, it's not just a vibe. It has a direct, real-world impact on your team's whole climate, on the level of trust they have, and, yeah, on their bottom line performance. Okay, so this brings us to a really interesting concept, your energetic signature. The idea here is that every single person in a company, from the newest intern all the way up to the CEO, creates this tangible atmosphere around them. And that atmosphere, that signature, it's all built on one foundational thing, your presence. So what is presence, really? Well, at its core, it's just this, a deep awareness of the here and now. It's about being fully tuned in to the people and the situation right in front of you. And what's so wild is that this one simple act of awareness can have this huge cascading impact on actual business outcomes. It sounds simple, but it's a game changer. All right, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how does it actually work in practice? Well, we can actively cultivate this presence by looking at 4 different types of energy. Let's start with the 2 that are closest to home, our personal, physical, and emotional energy. This first part is really all about managing our own internal chemistry. Think about it. When you feel something positive, like gratitude, your brain's reward circuits light up. You feel more open, more creative. But the opposite is just as true. Chronic stress floods your system with cortisol, and that stuff literally narrows your vision and slams the door on strategic thinking. It's like your brain goes into survival mode. And check this out. This shows just how simple it can be. We are not talking about some week-long meditation retreat here. We're talking about 2 minutes, just 2. Imagine you're about to give a huge presentation. Taking just 2 minutes to center your breathing can physically lower that stress hormone, cortisol. Or just acknowledging a small team win out loud, boom, you've just boosted everyone's positive emotions. Instantly, the whole chemistry in the room can shift from anxious to collaborative. It's that fast. Okay, next up, our mental energy. The document calls this the gymnasium of a positive mindset, which I gotta say, I absolutely love. It's this idea that you can train your mind just like a muscle through discipline and routine. So something like gratitude stops being just a fleeting feeling and becomes a deliberate practice, a tool you can use to reframe mistakes. They're not failures anymore. They're powerful learning opportunities. And here's a perfect example of that in action. You know how project retrospectives can get, right? They can so easily just turn into a big old blame game. But what if you introduce one simple rule? Before we start, everyone lists 3 micro-victories. Just that one small change completely reframes the entire conversation. You're literally training everyone's brain to look for what worked, and that immediately shifts the whole dynamic away from problems and towards solutions. All right, so we've been talking a lot about our own internal energy, but now let's zoom out a bit and see how that personal presence starts to build really powerful team dynamics. This is the point where presence stops being all about me and starts becoming about us. And that's where you start to build a real culture of trust. Now, the source makes this really powerful claim here, and it's worth sitting with for a second. Kindness is not a soft skill, it's capital. Think about that. It's the currency you use to build psychological safety on your team. And let's be clear, without that safety, where people feel like they can actually speak up, take a risk, maybe even fail, there's no way true innovation is ever going to happen. So how do you put that capital to work? Well, here's a great example. Picture the end of a project. A leader gives public, positive feedback, but here's the crucial part. It has to be for specific, concrete actions. It's not just a generic, good job, team. It's, Sarah, the way you handled that tough client call on Tuesday, that was brilliant. See the difference? That kind of specificity creates this amazing ripple effect, boosting trust and cooperation across the entire team. And that brings us to the final type of energy, which is all about purpose or spirit. This one is absolutely critical for leaders. It's about embodying the very culture you want to create. It's making sure there's no daylight between the company values written on the wall and the actual day-to-day behaviors of the people in charge. That coherence is what builds an unshakable foundation of trust. So the big takeaway here? Leadership isn't just about telling people what to do. It's about setting a clear example that others can actually follow. When a leader consistently points out and celebrates behaviors that really embody the company's values, they're doing something huge. They're actively strengthening the team's identity and building the kind of resilience you absolutely need to get through the tough times.
Okay, so we've looked at the internal chemistry, the mindset, the team dynamics. We've even seen some of these little micro practices. But let's get down to it. What's the ultimate payoff? What's the tangible, strategic benefit that makes all of this more than just some feel-good initiative? Well, the payoff is incredibly clear, it's direct, and it's measurable. When you invest in these practices, you get a proven strategy that reduces absenteeism, increases engagement, and builds real, sustainable well-being across the entire organization. And that's key. This isn't a cost on the balance sheet. It is an investment in the most important thing you have, the very engine of your company, your people. So there you have it. That's our deep dive into presence as a real strategic asset. If there's one thing to take away, it's this. Small, intentional acts can create massive, massive change. So the question really isn't if this stuff works. The question is, how are you going to start? What's the one micro practice you're going to try this week to consciously shape the energetic signature you bring to your work?